Making moves on infrastructure after weeks of back and forth, senators agreeing to a $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure package, which includes $550 billion in new spending. Here's some of what we know. $110 billion to roads and bridges, $73 billion electric grid updates, $65 billion for broadband expansion. The vote came in at 67 to 32, but Democrats are already threatening to squash that bill without the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. We heard that from Joe Biden even. At one point, he walked it back. Then we heard it from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi repeatedly. Joining me now, Iowa Senator and Armed Forces Committee member Joni Ernst. Also joining the conversation all morning long, Mark Tepper and Joseph Pinion. Senator, you voted against this, did you not?
Yes, I did. And I haven't seen the text of the bill yet. And so for me to decide whether it's the right move for Iowans or not, I really need to see what's in the bill and the impact it will have to my great state of Iowa. No doubt about it, there's a lot of good things that will be in the bill. Infrastructure is really important to all Americans. But again, I need to see the text of the bill and make sure that the Democrats haven't slid any provisions in that would be unacceptable to Iowans. So let's review the bill first before we actually proceed on it.
As Tim Scott, he also was a no on this, along with Rick Scott and Ted Cruz. Tim Scott put this out on Twitter about 12 hours ago. He voted no a week ago because there was no legislative text. My mind hasn't changed. There's still no legislative text or explanation on how to pay for the $1 trillion infrastructure plan. Also, what are the Republicans getting out of this? Is there, the Wall Street Journal has written about this, that back in 2015, when the budget deal was inked, there was a trade between Republicans and President Obama on energy policy. What are Republicans, and I don't mean political gain, but I mean, say, green light in the Keystone XL pipeline. You know, making a move, making it easier, getting rid of some of the regulations on, or the things in the way, the hurdles for infrastructure implementation. What say you, Senator?
Right, exactly, Dagan. This is something that we need to know, and we really don't know that. But what I would like to see is a bipartisan deal that provides solid infrastructure, what we typically think of as infrastructure, our roads, our bridges, our waterways, even broadband. I think that's important. But what are we getting for it? Does it mean that the Democrats would drop their crazily reckless tax and spending bill at the cost of $3.5 trillion plus on our American taxpayers? We don't have that. And President Biden has stated that he wants to go forward with that human infrastructure bill. And we hope that maybe there will be some common sense Democrats that say, wow, we've been able to get a bipartisan infrastructure deal. We don't need to engage on this other piece of legislation.
So it still sounds like you're optimistic about an infrastructure bill, and you talk about the importance of it. However, politically, you will hand President Biden and all the Democrats a win ahead of the midterm elections, and then the Republicans won't be able to talk about spending, juicing inflation, because that will then be used against you. That if you try to blame the Democrats for the rising inflation, well, you kind of own some of that as well.
Yes, and that's correct. And the federal government has been spending way too much. And we do see inflation that has shot up just over a year ago. And it's not been a slow, steady increase in inflation. It's been a sharp increase in inflation because of federal spending, because of the federal government pushing money out into people's bank accounts, into the economy, when there are no goods and services to be purchased. So it's an incredibly, really difficult decision that people will have to make. But once again, you know, if we can get a common sense bill done, that's great. But what we shouldn't be doing is spending dollars without knowing what those pay-fors are, how we're going to eventually rein in this spending. We have a debt ceiling vote that will be coming up very soon as well. And we can't continue on the path that we are on.
Senator Joseph Pinion, wants to jump in. Joe?
Senator, thank you so much. Obviously, we know for a fact that there's over $1 trillion of the $6 trillion in COVID relief bill that had very little to do with COVID, backloaded with lots of giveaways for blue states. Is there an appetite, you think, in the Senate to try to see if we can reappropriate some of those unspent funds? Because to your point, it seems more logical to spend the trillion we haven't spent and already printed than just go ahead and try to see if we're going to print $4.5 trillion more.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. And this is money that could be used on infrastructure. There was a lot of dollars pushed out in the partisan package that the Democrats passed at the beginning of the year. A lot of money that has yet to be used is not scheduled to be used until years in the future. All of that should be pulled back in and then used on things that people can actually appreciate: their roads, their bridges. All of that is extremely important. That is what the federal government should spend dollars on, not fancy wish lists and pet projects that the Democrats want to see done. We shouldn't be spending it on the Green New Deal. We shouldn't be spending this on expanding Medicare, further diluting, of course, the benefits that our seniors get. We shouldn't be doing those things. Let's make sure we're using those dollars wisely. So I think absolutely that should be discussed and debated as one of the pay-fors.
I want to move on to President Biden announcing the end to the combat mission in Iraq by the end of the year. Senator, you spoke with Iraq's prime minister yesterday. What did you learn?
Yes, I am a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom. I served from 2003 to 2004. I was able to sit down with the Iraqi Prime Minister yesterday, and he does appreciate the troops in Iraq. So they will maintain the troop presence there. The mission will shift, however, to more of an advisory role. He does agree that we need a presence in Iraq, especially when you see ISIS, small cells still here and there across the country, as well as an ever ominous Iran. And I appreciated his statement to the president that the United States is a friend, Iran is a neighbor. So I encouraged him to continue with the friendship that we have, continue developing that, and to continue using us as a strategic partner rather than relying on Iran and others that we may consider near-peer adversaries.
Senator Joni Ernst, thank you for being here this morning. Always a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much.